Depending on the recovery model you are using, you can take 3 types of backup within SQL Server. You can do a full backup, differential backup, and a transaction log backup. A recovery model is a database property that controls how the transaction log is managed. Therefore, the recovery model of a database determines what type of backups and restore scenarios are supported for the database. When a database is configured in simple recovery model, the transaction log is truncated after each checkpoint. This usually means that you don't have to administer the transaction log. It also means that you cannot take transaction log backups. The simple recovery model can increase performance for some operations because transactions are minimally logged. Operations that can benefit from minimal logging are bulk imports, select into, index creation, and index rebuilds. So these are just a few of them. The main disadvantage of simple recovery model is that it is not possible to recover to a specific point in time. You can only restore to the end of the full backup. Another disadvantage of the simple recovery model is that the simple recovery model is incompatible with some SQL Server high availability or DR feature, namely the always-on group, database mirroring, and log shipping. So one of the best ways to go about using the simple recovery model is for large data warehouse environments where you would have like nightly ETL loads, right, and a lot of reporting from. So because transactions will be minimally logged, you don't need to be taking frequent transaction log backups while your ETL job is running. You can always take a full backup once the ETL job has been completed. If the database was running in a full recovery model, your transaction log will be running out of space very often. When the database is configured with full recovery model, the log truncation does not occur after the checkpoint operation. It occurs after the transaction log backup as long as a checkpoint operation has occurred since the previous transaction log backup. This means that you must schedule transaction log backups to run on a frequent basis. Failing to do so not only leaves your database at risk of not being recoverable in the event of a failure, but it also means that your transaction log continues to grow until it runs out of space and a 9002 error will be thrown. So the main advantage of the full recovery model is that it allows point-in-time recovery, which means that you can restore your database to a point in time of the middle of a transaction log backup, as opposed to being able to restore it at the end of the backup. There is a recovery model that falls somewhere between simple recovery model and the full recovery model. This one is called the bulk logged recovery model. The bulk log recovery model is designed for intermittent use to improve performance of bulk imports of large amounts of data. It's practically the same as the full recovery model to an extent, only with the exception that under the bulk log recovery model, some operations such as bulk import operations like insert, select, and bulk insert and select into operations are minimally logged. The advantage of using the bulk log recovery model is that your transaction log will not get large if you are doing bulk operations, and it still allows you to do point-in-time recovery as long as your transaction log backup does not include a bulk operation. So if no bulk operations were run, this recovery model pretty much works just like the full recovery model. So if you're going to use the bulk log recovery model, then you need to do transaction log backups, otherwise your transaction log will continue to grow and fill up your disk space. You may want to use the bulk recovery model when data is critical and you want to minimize data loss, but you do not want to log large bulk operations.